So my name is Elizabeth Otis, and I'm the founder of Be Live. I run a movement that is set out to essentially help the planet, at least 7 billion people, tap into what they feel their life purpose is so that they can thrive in a life of harmony around their purpose. So that every single day, we as individuals wake up and we know that I know what I love to do, I'm living it, everything's working perfectly. Because as a collective, if we operate like that, then we solve all of our quote unquote issues. And then the world just becomes a basically big playhouse for us to thrive in. So that is my dream. And that is the reason why I founded Be Live.
I love it. And it's so important for us to have like big vision, right? Because that leads you. That's the lighthouse. Like that's why you do everything that you're doing, right? Because of that vision. And it's basic. You said 7 billion. That's the world.
Yes, minus 1 billion.
Oh,
The world
okay.
minus 1 billion. Just because like intuitively I was like, you know what? I just feel like 7 feels right.
Yeah, that's a big
Yeah.
vision,
Yes, but we're all a part of it. We're all a part
right?
of it. So that's why, as a coach, I coach like the leaders, people who are also pursuing the same mission, because it's definitely a collective effort. Definitely not all by me.
Yeah, no, I definitely resonates completely. That's why I reached out to you. Well, on the calls and stuff, and we talked, and I'm all about it. I'm all about what you're doing. I have so many questions. Why entrepreneurs? I noticed like that's the people that you're really passionate about helping. Tell me why that specific group of people, which you and I both are. So
Yeah, absolutely. Entrepreneurs, I believe, even though if you were to compare someone who doesn't like or doesn't have no desire to run a business, we all have an entrepreneur spirit in us, whether that be we're an artist vocally, through our performance, maybe it's fire spinning, maybe it's actually like a business doing coaching, but we all have an aspect of us that when we come at it from a place of entrepreneurism, that's when we get to design the life that we want, because we are the creator of how we fulfill this mission or this desire of ours. And so I really love to work with not any type of entrepreneurs, which I love all people, but like the ones I specifically only let into my programs are the ones who are leaders in a sense, helping us fulfill this larger mission. Because the more people that are serving people on a mass level that I can help thrive internally, then the more work we are doing as a collective, as opposed to maybe saying, there are some people I would always want to help them if it came to healing, right? If they have healing terms, but I maybe wouldn't want to give them all the ins and outs on how to program themselves like for success if say their business was something destructive towards the planet. So that's why I chose like leaders specifically in entrepreneurism, because these are the types of people that are like the big dominoes in our planet. These are the people who are willing to say, yes, I'm going forward and I don't care how I look. You guys can all come with, like, I got you, let's go. Here's the vision. So that's specifically why I think entrepreneurs, leaders that are entrepreneurs are some of the most I don't want to say valuable people because we all serve our value, but they're one of the most valuable when it comes to business, because this is overall helping the planet thrive in harmony.
yeah, the role they play. It's just if we don't have the leaders, then the whole system doesn't work. So no, I get it, and I'm very attracted to you and your work. It makes total sense, and you are that. You are the leader. You are the entrepreneur, and it makes sense that you would be connected to that.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, like I said, I got a whole. I'm fascinated. So I know you're a hypnotherapist. I know you're an NLP practitioner. What else do you have in your back pocket? So I know you're a coach. What else do you have?
Yeah, so I've been certified in like a bunch of modalities. As you know, you and I are both from the same school. It's like one of the best. Shout out to HMI.
Yeah.
If anyone ever wants to get certified in the work that we do, go to HMI. That's the same school Joe Dispenza and Tony Robbins had graduated from, if that gives you any insight. Because
I didn't know Tony Robbins. I knew Joe went.
Yes.
Oh, how neat.
Yes. And so I work with a bunch of different modalities as far as regulating the nervous system, our energy bodies, inner child healing, working with past traumas, things like that. And I basically like to refer to myself as like a behavior specialist, because as long as you understand why you do what you do, there is no need to force yourself to get yourself to do anything. There's no need to use up all your energy and like discipline and muster in order to like say thrive in your business because you did all the ins and outs or you like nailed that live stream. It only becomes sustainable from a place of like harmony whenever we understand why we do what we do, so then we can already leverage what's there. And so I like to say, even I can give like a list of all my modalities, but it'll probably bore people. Essentially, I love to help people master their internal state,
Yeah.
whether that be healing from past traumas, overcoming they just can't get themselves to follow through, or if they do, it takes up like all their energy, they have to push through to do it, those types of things.
So I watched some of your stuff, which I'm going to go back and watch more because I just found it like so fascinating. And you do this beautiful blend, which I relate to also, is the metaphysical, right? The spiritual, like, right. But you're also like, I'm very logical. I'm very practical. And it was like the blending of those two, because we are human and spirit. So if we ever come at something with like just kind of a spiritual aspect, it's like you're missing a whole component of being a human being. So it's like we have to look at something holistically like that. You're both. And so we talk about my human and we talk about my spirit, and you do this really like blend so beautifully. But you talk about, I know brain and heart coherence, and you talk about neutrality. And I want you to expand on this. I'm really, really interested. Is neutrality coherence?
In a sense, because when you are in a state of neutrality, like your body, not just like, oh, I'm making myself feel neutral. Like I really am like in a state of neutrality. I feel whole, complete, like this could happen and it's all good. I have no opinion on it. If
Tell
we were
me
to
how
actually
someone would get themselves first define neutrality. Like how would someone know like I'm in neutrality?
neutrality is a place of wholeness, oneness. So something when you are slipping like less than a state of emotional neutrality, you start to either feel like irritated, wanting, desiring, it doesn't have to be anything negative, but like that slowly start of irritation, it creates that degree of separation. And so you have like you're in either a state of wanting, desiring, or simply just like other emotions you don't want to feel. And so whenever we are, and you don't have to be all, I'm not talking about like high vibe is not neutrality either. It's basically just being in a state where you are the observer. That's the best way I can explain it, because you can become neutral around things if you're in a different state. Like say, we all have triggers based off our past lives and our whole life experience and everything like that. And we would naturally react to the triggers emotionally, and then therefore followed up with like actions and such of nature. But when we bring that same emotional trigger back to the state of neutrality, meaning like whatever reason why this was triggering me in the first place, maybe it made me feel like unwanted, maybe it pissed me off because it made me feel unsafe, long story short. So when we bring back the reason that kept us apart from neutrality, we bring ourselves back to like a state of wholeness, a state of oneness. So we are, that same trigger could happen and we would just be the observer of it. We'd have no reaction to it. We'd just notice it. And it'd have no power.
How do you get there?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so,
is that what you teach, like tools and techniques and stuff to get a person to like be in the presence of a trigger and find neutrality and then normalize neutrality?
So there's a couple of things that we do. That is one thing. There's a heart mind hypnosis that we do where we have them like visualize all the things that maybe normally would have triggered them and actually be able to embody a state of neutrality. So they learn how to associate it with like, I can be present observer no matter what happens, and always tapped into like a state of wholeness. So I can listen to my intuition clearly, like my brain is in the most resourceful state. I'm not in fight or flight, so I'm not making any illogical decisions, things like that. But there are many ways you can actually tap into a state of neutrality. It just depends on where you're at. So fundamentally, what you can always relate this back to your emotional state, because I don't want to overcomplicate neutrality in itself. You'll know when you're neutral because you feel neutral. Does
And
that make sense?
yeah, is that the most potent point of creation?
So there's potency, equal potency in every single level of our emotions. It
Okay.
just depends on how it's directed. So when I work with entrepreneurs, they are trying to perform at the top of their A game, be tapped into the most resourceful part of themselves. They want to be able to maintain like high energy, not from a place of like mustering it up where it's just like natural. They're in the flow, they're in the zone. Not let any of the negative triggers trigger them. They want to stay neutral and they want to stay tapped into their intuition. And so for entrepreneurs, depending on what task they're doing, more often than not, they are going to want to be performing in a state of neutrality. Because if we were to actually measure like our human body and our heart and mind, whenever we are in that emotional state, that's when we are in the most coherent, AKA our brains are literally, our heart and minds are giving us access to the most resourceful part of our brains, the most creative part of our brains, our prime problem solving, and we are not judging our intuition because our intuition is speaking to us all day long. So when we're in a state of neutrality, we can finally trust that because it's so clear that emotionally we're like, those other things that catch us like doubting our intuition. Well, what about this? The fear, the panic. If you're not fearing, you're not panicking, you're always certain into your intuition. You're just like, oh, it makes sense. It's only when you start to doubt your intuition, the answers that are always there, that you actually start to slip less than neutral. So this is why for entrepreneurs, the state of neutrality is one of the most serving states to be in. But say, being that we're hypnotherapists, you know, there's a lot of power in being like in a super elevated state because you become hypnotic, for example, or same, even if you're angry, there's a lot of potency in the anger because you can either transmute that same energy and bring it up to, you know, different energy centers, or this is also, and, or it's an opportunity to further transmute whatever emotionally was there causing the trigger in the first place.
So do you teach your clients and your students like to like always come back to neutrality as like their set point? Is that the idea, so that you can move along the emotional scale, right? Just being a human, you will, but to like neutrality is the set point rather than frustration or irritation or anger or wherever. Like, is that the idea?
Yes. And I love so much that you brought this up because right now we're talking about like the way we perform, the way we operate, but we also have to, this is also how we create permanence in our success and what we like are able, like if you bring a bunch of money in, but then somehow you spend it all or like you lose it, the same thing happens whenever we become emotionally regulated in a certain experience. So like, the same reason we never really have to think like, of course, like I'm going to brush my teeth this morning. You know, it's no big deal. There's a million reasons why you cannot brush your teeth in the morning, but it's like, it's something you just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. There's no second guessing about it. Right. So even though there's a million reasons why that could not happen, it's just like natural. It's normal. It's kind of like a must. It's just part of my routine. And so even if you're super tired and are like, not even realizing you're brushing your teeth, you're still able to brush your teeth. So it's creating that same state of neutrality, that same regulation. What's normal to our system is what we naturally receive and like continuously bring it up. So like say when someone, because this emotional regulation is not just important when you are feeling less than neutral, it's very important that you do it when you're in the elevated states too. Not to say to take you down from the elevated states, but say, for example, if you're an entrepreneur watching this right now and you get like, you sell out your mastermind and that's not something you normally do, that's a lot of, that's not, there's nothing positive or negative to our nervous system. It's just all stimulus.
Right.
So that's a lot of stimuli that it's not used to. And if you don't calibrate yourself to this is normal, natural, and not just ride this high vibe of like excitement, oh my God, I sold out my lunch. Like if you like, yes, celebrate yourself. That's very important. But it's like creating that, of course, like that was natural. And adjusting the nervous system to that, because the more it calibrates to that, then it becomes effortless for you to sell your mastermind. It's just like breath. It's natural, it's normal.
And then that's your new set point. So a sold out mastermind, once you calibrate and normalize that, like that's the normal. We don't ever go back down. Like you always sell out the mastermind and then just move from there.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
those are a lot of like universal manifestation principles tied up into this.
There are. I like to sprinkle that a little bit in there because that's the whole reason why we're doing what we do anyways. Like we're trying to experience something in the first place, right? But a lot of people aren't able to successfully manifest because they haven't mastered their internal state and the way that they operate. And this is a big reason why I like to bring the science into things, because we've been taught so much that we have to like maintain this like specific state to like match our vibrational desire. And that's not necessarily true in a sense. We just have to become regulated in that frequency. And that can show up emotionally in many different ways. But as long as we become regulated in neutrality, it's going to become natural and flow for us.
I love that you say that, because I think anyone coming to like the beginning manifestation teachings, a lot of that is that it's like high vibe or bust. Right. And if you can't maintain this and like all your stuff, but there's so much more to it, it's more complex. And you nailed it with like the regulation and the normalization. Like you can normalize your sold out masterminds and still have like trauma and a shitty day and get upset. And you can still achieve that over and over and over again because you've normalized it and calibrated in that area. It's not about high vibe 100% of the time.
Yes. Yeah. I love the fact that you brought up that specific example, because there's a lot of, when we do launch something, whether it's a mastermind or a product or, you know, a book, whatever, there is a lot of drama that comes up because it's all like our worthiness and our desire and our feeling of wanting. And can we really do it? Or, you know, is this the right way? So there's all these internal battles that naturally come up because we're expanding. And anytime we expand into something new or we're up leveling in any sort of way, like I know you know this, Amity, but for anyone listening and watching, we're always going to face a level of resistance that we have to properly integrate. Otherwise, we're going to find a way to sabotage that in the end. We can't truly ever push through something because we can't fool our nervous system. Our nervous system will always win in the end.
Right? Totally.
Mhm.
I actually like to put myself in situations where my resistance will come up, like, so I could work through it on purpose. Like I'm working through activating myself for more wealth. And I do that with a lot of my clients, like women not being taught or like how to hold and earn and receive and grow money. Like, but they desire being wealthy, but there's a huge gap between what they desire and like what's been normalized in their system. So we do a lot of work, you know. So I do that work myself. I don't teach anything that I don't do, which I think is part of being like an integral teacher or coach. And so I will take myself to like wealthy neighborhoods and $1 million open houses. And I do that on purpose so that I can, like, my nervous system freaks out, right? All the chatter and the like the heart and everything, like, and then so I can actually like actively in the moment calibrate my nervous system to this higher level.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful, and that's one of the best ways we can do it, because yes, visualization is very potent, but why not like have fun and experience it in real life too? Like that's such a beautiful example to do. Don't just do it with regular homes, do it with the multi-million. You have just as much worthiness to go into any of those open houses than anybody else there.
Yeah. But I had to train my nervous system like we belong here. Because she was freaking the fuck out. Turn around. Who are you? They're going to know, like, you know, all this stuff came, she was freaking out and like that. But I teach that too. Like it's a lot of the hypnosis, a lot of the mind stuff, but you have to match that with physical experience and the regulation of the nervous system. Or again, you're just working with like one side, you're human and spirit. So I feel like the brain mind is our kind of access to spirit, right? Our imagination and our creation and all the non-physical. And then you have the human body and the nervous system and all that. And it's like, so anything we do has to partner both together if you're actually going to elevate your experience.
Yes, 100%. And I like how you brought up the example of she, like you had said it in your words, like she was freaking out, because the mind, body, and spirit is always, they always have the same goal. They just go about it in different ways. Like, yes, you may have the desire to expand, or you always will have the desire to expand in your body, even though it's going to reject it, because you're
Yeah.
human. Anything with life is meant to grow and thrive, but it's scary. So it's not even our body, it's our inner child. It's a part of us
Mm.
that's fearful, or still wants the same thing. It wants like the overall emotional feeling that whatever we're trying to achieve is going to bring us, but it's fearful that the way we're going about it isn't going to work. And so she, for example, like Amity, she was putting herself into it, like, no, I know this is like, I literally do this for a living, so I know this is the best thing for me to do right now. But her inner child, a part of her, was like, no, we can't. So it's like the resistance is not ever because you're not disciplined. It's not ever because, you're not confident enough or not pushing yourself enough. It's only because a part of you isn't in harmony with the whole part of you. But they always want the same thing. That's
Yeah.
very important to know.
Another thing that I've kind of realized is like, I thought it was like worthiness. And the more I've done this work, right, like she didn't feel worthy, or even the inner child, like I'm not worthy of being in this wealthy neighborhood or this $10 million home. But I understand it more, that it's maybe not actually worthiness, and it's just normalized. Wealth wasn't normalized for me in childhood. So it's not even like, I might have confused it as a worthiness issue. But now, like the more I'm seeing, like, I don't even think it ever was a worthiness issue. And it wasn't normalized in youth that wealth was a thing I got to experience, and that my worth wasn't even on the table, you know?
Exactly. And so it's like, it's always coming back to those separate parts of ourselves. It's like, oh no, it's screaming these rules over here. Like, we have to be this way in order to receive it. But really, it all just comes down to what's normal, what's natural. And so there's always going to be all these other reasons why we may feel like it's happening. But if we just look at the fundamentals, like the fundamentals of what Amity and I keep saying, it's all about bringing back to neutrality and normalizing yourself emotionally, physically, and then of course your spirit's already there.
Yeah, that's what I actively practice, is the normalization. But I'm really interested. Tell me, you had this little like band in one of your videos, and I'm really interested. I got Heart Math, the Heart Math Institute. So I have a Coherence, it like hooks up to my ear, and it does the heart rate variability, but I haven't got any gadgets for my brain. So tell me more about how you measure coherence with yourself and your clients.
Yeah, so the one that you specifically seen is Muse 2, I do believe it is Muse, Muse. And you'll also want to get a partner app. It's only like $15, but it's $15 one time, so like no big deal. And it's called Mind Monitor. I don't know if you can see. Wait, hold on. Mind Monitor. It looks like this.
Okay. That goes with the band?
And it doesn't come with it. You got to buy it separately, but it's only like $15.
But they work together.
Yeah, they work together. They're like third-party companies or whatever. And it will show you in this, because Muse is meant for like meditation and things like that, but then you can take it a step further for like people like you and I, or people that are listening that want to take it further and really analyze themselves. The Mind Monitor will split it up into all of the different brain waves. So we have like gamma, delta, theta, alpha, and we're in all of them all the time, but the one that we're predominantly operating from is the one that's the highest in that given moment. So you'll see where you're at completely in it's like, it's not 100% real time, but I think it's like only like a couple seconds. So you'll see pretty much in real time exactly where you are at emotionally whenever certain triggers come up, whenever you're thinking of things. And this also, I use this a lot with doubling down on self-trust, because like many people, I struggled so hard with self-trust. Like, we always have the answers, but we doubt ourselves for the life experience that we've had. Well, I've had this happen, or such and such said this would happen, or whatever. And we always have the answers. We always can get exactly what we want every single moment, but our doubt gets in the way. And so self-trust sometimes isn't very easy for individuals based off of times they felt like they trust themselves, but really they weren't trusting themselves. They just thought they were acting out of fear. And so you will know when your intuition, when your fight or flight is kicked off, and your intuition is the clearest, well, it's always speaking to you clearly, but you'll be able to hear it without all those contradictory like emotional doubts, is when your beta is low, your gamma and beta is low, and your theta and alpha is really high. When you know that those are the predominant brainwaves and you're asking yourself question, when you ask yourself a question, you're going to think for a second. So see like a shoot up in the beta, but then when you receive your answer, you'll see if it, as long as you're not acting out of fear, you're going to see the theta and alpha directly relate, and you'll feel like neutral in your body.
I'm so excited. I love biofeedback. I love like studying myself. I think humans are fascinating and like learning, aren't they? Tell me, totally off. What is your sun sign?
I'm Leo. I have Sagittarius in my moon and rising.
Both are Sag, your moon and rising are Sag. Okay. That's cool.
What is yours?
I'm a Taurus sun. I'm a Virgo moon, which is that like analytical, practical, like that's where like that comes in. And then my rising is Libra.
Oh.
Yeah. So a lot of earth, very grounded, balancing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's needed in this line of work.
I know. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to get this thing. Do you use it with your clients or you use it yourself and then you teach them how to like, go get this for yourself and use it?
So both, like all of it, because Mind Monitor does not work long distance because it's Bluetooth. So what I'll do is if I'm ever working with a client, I will actually like send them the Mind Monitor, and I'll be hypnotizing them and they'll record it, because you can record it, and then I'll just view it later, and I'll make like little notes, like if they made like a weird movement or something, like check this specific time, or like this was a trick, so I'll make in my notes, like definitely check back the EEG waves at this specific time. But if you're in person, I think it's like 10, 15 feet. So if you take clients in person, you can easily do this in person. And I definitely do it on myself.
Yeah,
I'm
most excited about using it on myself.
Yes. I got it first for myself.
Yeah. So tell me how you weave. Do you have a separate coaching practice and a separate hypnotherapy practice, or do you like weave it in? How did you like, what's your business model with that?
So I used to do a lot of one-on-ones where I would do like a customized plan. But being that I kind of niched down to a specific audience, like we all need the same things. So I created a signature program where and now I'm launching it group wise, which you can do one-on-one still, but it's more so like a program where I take them through we're going to cover everything that they need to cover essentially. But I'm not hypnotizing them in every single session, because sometimes like this whole conversation about regulation, as long as I don't need to hypnotize anybody so like some days we may just coach, and we may coach specifically like on how do I calibrate in this situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you are out to like teach people how to master their internal state. I'm wondering what your like biggest steps for that is. Like someone may be new to the game. And even the words we use, I've noticed, because I've been learning like business and marketing and all that, like how some people don't speak like we do. Some people do, but other people, like they think in terms of like, I just want to grow my business, or I just want to earn more money, or, they think in very simple terms, and we're over here like master your inner state and, get in the zone. And like, we use these words, right, that are very familiar to us, but not necessarily familiar to the masses, but that's a whole nother conversation. But tell me more about your best tips, techniques, suggestions for people that want to practice mastering their internal state. I would agree. That's the one. If you're going to do anything in this life to create or manifest or whatever, have the life you desire, like this is it.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the most important thing we could ever learn.
I 100% agree with you, which is why I became a nerd about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is it. This is the best way I can serve people, especially because I have a little bit of healer in me,
Yeah,
which
you
goes
do.
hand in hand. But yeah, so there is actually a 4-step process. It's very simple, very quick. And it doesn't matter if it's anytime you feel less than neutral, you feel like I am not mastering the way I internally feel, and my emotions or my physical body is getting the best of me, and I'm not getting what I really want right now. So you're going to apply this towards literally anything, same fundamentals. And step number 1 is just become aware when you're less than neutral. When I start, don't wait until you are like pissed off, upset, really irritated to then go in and like address what's there. When
Yeah.
you start to feel doubtful, when you start to feel a little, stressed or antsy or anxious, like just a little bit less than neutral, that's when you then want to step 2. So step number 1 is just really mindful. Like, I'm not going to operate and make executive decisions from less than a neutral state, because I know as soon as I slip less than neutral emotionally, my fight or flight actually begins to get kicked on. So I don't have access to the most resourceful part of my brain. I'm going to doubt my intuition. I don't have access to my prime problem solving mode. So step number 1 is mindfulness, because we never want to make a decision, like an executive decision,
Right.
from less than neutral, from tapped into us truly. So step number 2 is what's actually there. It's kind of like a self check-in. And because there's many reasons why we could slip less than neutral, sometimes it's not the thoughts, or it's not like an experience. Sometimes it's like a physiological thing, like our blood sugar is low, like, as you know, this Amity, but like we can feel very irritable. A lot of entrepreneurs push through all day. They may drink a few cups of coffee and eat a protein bar or two, and they get pissed off at themselves because at the end of the day, you're like, I'm still kind of irritated, I should be better than this. And it's like, dude, your blood sugar is low. Like, you need to, yeah, you'll feel great after you eat, it has nothing to do with your mind. So it's kind of like a self check-in. Like, how is my container right now? Do I need to rest? Have I ate? Am I stressed? Like, and if it is emotionally like stressed, irritated, then what's actually there? So then step number 3, you can like validate that, and then give yourself whatever is missing from keeping you from less than a state of neutrality, less than a state of neutral. So obviously if it's something physiological, it's very simple. Oh, of course I need to eat, I'll feel better. But if it is something that's like a limiting belief, like thoughts getting in your way, like, so to speak, mindset issues, emotional issues, then you want to lean in and validate that, even if it does sound limiting, or if it doesn't sound like this isn't gonna, like, the best mindset. You want to go in and you want to validate the thoughts that seem negative. Like, for example, we're going to use content because a lot of us have businesses online, and that's how we sell our things. And a lot of us feel like we have to push through or like resist the whole content part because of the different thoughts that come up, or, oh, this is going to be a waste of time, or it's not really going to get me what I want. Well, why do you actually feel that way? Like, what's actually there? And deep down, like, say maybe it's a feeling of being unwanted. So as long as you're in an emotional state, as long as that keeps being triggered of I'm being unwanted, if you push through and you are creating from a state of being unwanted, people aren't going to want your shit. So
Right.
it's like we have to validate that, not just from a state of so it can get us what we want, but it's like we have to validate it, because the only reason we would go against ourselves and like say these sorts of things is because of like a real fear, a real experience that happened to us that was like, no, 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 this is too painful. So we need to tell ourselves that we're like unwanted deep down so that we don't face the rejection again, so to speak. This is just an example. Obviously,
Right.
it's not going to
So
be for
true.
everything.
So
Yes.
true.
So when you recognize and truly validate like the core reason why it's there, like, then you can go in and give yourself what you actually need, because you don't need more confidence, you don't need more discipline. What you really need is a state level of love, and a level of feeling wanted and cared for. So then this is where like the inner child and somatic work comes in, where you're like, oh honey, like, you never want to in these moments talk to yourself like, that's just, you just want to be wanted, it's okay, like, you're wanted. You never want to just like give yourself like a pep talk. You want to talk to yourself like you were a child, because this is that younger programming part of us that got hurt, and it keeps trying to remind us, hey, what about me? Like, what are we going to do about me? So it's like, oh honey, I understand you feel that way, but I love you so much, and like,
Yeah.
you are so valuable, like you are queen, like however you would talk to your daughter, if you have a daughter, if you would have a child, how would you speak to them? And then somatically, because that's how you like verbally validate it, but then you want to like somatically bring in that feeling of wantedness. And you can somatically bring in feelings in many different ways, but fundamentally it's just like, what does being wanted really feel like? Just ask yourself that question, and then let that explode in your body. Just let that explode in your body, feelings of being wanted. And then usually, naturally, you're gonna like not even need to complete step 4, because you're already in like a state where you brought yourself back to a state of wholeness, and like solutions already formed. But say for example, you're like, I don't really know what to do now. I feel wanted, but I don't know what to do right now. So then you want to ask yourself like the fourth question, or the fourth step, which is what I call a good question, which is essentially addressing whatever the pain was, or the part that was being separated towards the goal. So say for example, we're using content again, and the pain, the part that was being separated, was I was scared of rejection. I feel like if I type this, no one's going to want it, whatever. And the goal is to type content so you sell whatever you're looking to sell, or you impact whoever you're looking to impact. So then the question then becomes, only after you've gotten to that emotional state and gave yourself those needs that were bringing you a part of wholeness, then you ask yourselves, okay, so knowing that in the past I felt unwanted, how can I feel so deserving, so worthy, so wanted, like whatever feelings were coming up, so that I feel really good when I type this content? Like, it's as simple as formulating a question that addresses the specific pain, the specific concern that was being pulled apart, and attaching it to your desire. But we don't do this. It sounds way too simple, but we don't do this because we get into a place where we start to ask ourselves questions in less than a state of neutrality before we gave ourselves that emotional need or whatever part of us was missing. So then we're operating from like frantic energy. Well, this is what I think I have to do. This is what I did last time, or this seems like it may work. And you're just running around kind of chaotic, trying to get things to work. And then you feel like you have to like keep pushing yourself through. So this is like a 4-step process that no matter if you're resisting something, you're conflicted on what decisions to make, you are just emotionally like healing because you like suffered a loss, you always want to bring yourself like through these 4 steps, because they're going to address on like the mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
Because you have your desire, you have whatever mentally was holding you back, and then you somatically bring yourself back into a state of wholeness.
Can you go over number 4? You said ask a good question. I didn't quite. So you've given yourself what you were missing, right? That medicine. What's the question part? Can you go over that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is the good question, I always like to call it, is because our minds will give an answer to anything we ask, even if it's not true. And we tend to ask questions that don't necessarily get us exactly what we want, or we fall for the mistake of saying, well, I don't know, or I just don't know. And that's never true. We're just doubting ourselves. So you always want to ask yourself a good question, a question that gives you an answer to exactly what you want to experience. And it will address whatever pain or separation, like concern that you have. And it's going to address whatever you're trying to move towards. So, an example in this case was knowing I was feeling unwanted. This is like the concern, this is the pain. How can I, and the desire is to like type the content out
Yeah.
and feel good about it and the results it gets. Knowing that I was feeling unwanted about typing this content, what can I do right now? Or what is something I can tell myself? You can formulate so many different answers or questions, but it's like, what is something I can do? Or how can I know for sure that this is going to be completely valuable and easy for me? Or what can I do so that this becomes a fun flowing process and I get whatever I want, regardless of how it turns out? So you can kind of formulate questions however you want to, but the key is to address whatever concern is over here.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I know you feel this way. So how can we bring it in together? Because you're always moving towards the desire. This pain or this concern is just trying to go about it in a different way. So it's kind of like bringing it together. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So are you posing this question to your subconscious mind, and it's gonna like reveal the answer to you now that you're in neutrality?
Yes. Like you
Is
don't
that
even
the
have to think
idea?
about it. You just listen. Yeah.
Okay. This takes a level of self-awareness that I don't know. This is mastery you're talking about. This fourth step, like this is not an easy, if you don't already have some kind of self-awareness or mindfulness practice, and this is pretty advanced.
And it takes a lot of practice,
Yeah.
but this is this is something that becomes automatic.
Yeah.
Like, not in every single area of my life, because I'm continuously to expand. So obviously in the areas that I'm newly expanding in, I have that turbulence. But anytime like now where I'm like, should I do this or this? I'm like, oh, I just bring it back together in like a state of just a couple of minutes. I give myself exactly what I need and I'm able to reboot. So if this is something that seems complicated, don't worry, because it's going to be very natural, very easy once you have gotten familiar with yourself.
Yeah, no, this is something like you have to be at, I could do this.
Oh yeah.
I just think like someone who's like, this isn't beginner status. You have already like, so you're an advanced teacher. Like the leaders that find you already have done some of that inner work. I would imagine to even be attracted to, because you don't teach basic stuff.
No, I don't. I would say it's advanced, yes.
Yeah,
I don't like brand myself as advanced, but it is, because there are people like if they have never done any mindset work, I will not bring them into like a group setting, for example. I would offer one-on-one.
Yeah.
Because then they're going to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up with the pace. So I do, in like the group programs or like for this like signature way I teach, it is for people who have like a level of self-awareness, a level of understanding why they do what they do. But I also go even deeper into all of that too. So even if they didn't have a solid foundation, they just had a little bit of a foundation, we can help build that up for them.
I think even just them having the desire, when people want to know more about themselves or why they work the way they do, or even like how to change habits. Like most of the clients that come into my world, the theory of mind, they're like, oh my God, they're all like, let me take a picture. Like they have no idea how all that. So just even like getting that into their mind, and then it piques interest. Like I tell everyone, learn how you work. You're a computer operating system. It's the same way if you're going to play a game, you learn the rules of the game, you learn how it works so that you can come in and you can actually play or even manipulate the game. So if you can learn how energy works, learn how you work, you essentially can become a conscious creator and use all of your, because we're brilliantly made. If we learn how we work, then that's when we can go about creating like what you just described in these 4 steps is complete self-mastery. And if you just repeat that over and over and over again, all the different times where you like fall out of neutrality, you're going to reside in a frequency that is so much higher than like the collective. And I love that you practice this, but your mission is also to not just you elevate, but let me bring you along with me, the collective, so that we elevate together. And I will teach you how to master yourself so that we can elevate. It's just brilliant. It's brilliant.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Because yes, you're absolutely right. Like it is absolutely everything. If you don't understand the way that you work, then you work against yourself.
Yeah.
Leverage what's already there. We never have to try to breathe. We never have to try to pump blood through our veins. Let's apply that to exactly what you want so you can leverage the energy that's already there. It's already working for you.
You made a comment in one of your things. I don't watch so much more, but about natural. Like when things are natural, you don't have to like try to make it work, or like our sustainability, right? We don't have to like sustain nature. Nature is sustaining, and it's being. We don't have to try to sustain it. So it was like these ideas of like the leverage and bringing ourselves, calibrating ourselves back into what's natural. That's where we can really, it's a springboard to everything that we desire.
Springboard, exactly. I love that analogy. Yes. Yes.
So tell us what you have. We have a few minutes left. Tell us what's on the offerings and what you're doing and what's available. And are you still doing one-on-one? Are you focused just on group, or what's?
So I'm primarily focused on my group because within my group, there is one-on-one integration. So you can like upgrade VIP, but the group is called the Tapped In Entrepreneur Mastermind. And I do take, but side note, I do take one-on-one clients in between those launches. It's just too much with the VIP to do like one-on-one and the group and blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, so the group though is called a Tapped In Entrepreneur Mastermind, where of course we go back to what we talked about today, how to master your internal state so that no matter what is happening, you are able to operate from a state of flow and up-level your career in harmony in a state of ease. You're not having to like push through, muster up energy, force yourself to be disciplined, or use up all your willpower in the day in order to type all the content out that you wanted to, in order to nail the lives, in order to show up fully for your clients. We're going over how to not only just tap into the flow mode and maintain it, but also how to integrate any of the things that throw us off so that it's never from a place of like overcoming. It's from a place of like exactly what Amity says. It's springboarding. It's using whatever pain, whatever pressure, obstacle was originally causing turbulence in your system and actually using that as a tool to get you exactly more of what you want. Yes. And so the mastermind, it's 3 months long, but of course you can always continue. I've had people that coached one-on-one with me and then just wanted to keep going into it. But you'll have everything, like as long as you apply what we coach, like you'll be solid. You'll have an understanding of what we talked about today, and you'll know how to apply it towards yourself. A lot of people just like to re-enroll just because like they like to continue to coach and continue to get the mastery even further. Because mastery doesn't really ever stop, right?
No, not at all. The same way our desires don't.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
So is it weekly? Are they like you meet weekly? How is it set up?
Yeah, so it's a 12-week program and we meet weekly on Zoom. But if you want to do the VIP option, then you get to upgrade for every other week. We do one-on-one as well. So if you're VIP, you'll have 1 to 2 sessions a week. If you are just in the group, that's still plenty because we also are going to have like a Facebook group where in between you can post any questions. You don't have to like wait till Friday or whenever the day I host it to get your questions answered. And then there's like group masterminding going along as well. So you're not only getting my coaching, you're leveraging all the other coaches that are badasses at what they do, so that you are not just getting my own value, but you're like getting 10x from every single buddy else in there. Cause we all have different skill sets and expertise.
Right. So do you have it broken down like each week is like a new lesson, or like how is the 12 weeks broken into?
So every week isn't a new lesson because there are like some spots just to like purely integrate even deeper in, but we start off a little bit faster and then we go slower on the back end because there's the foundation building, and we go in 3 steps essentially. Like first, how to tap in to this state, a state of neutrality, a state of wholeness, no matter what's going on. Then we go into like the maintaining phase. So this goes into, first, it's really about understanding how you do, how to get into it, and tools to tap in. The second part is about integrating and or healing the things that throw you off so that you can maintain it. And then thirdly, it's about automating so that this is where we're bringing in even more hypnosis, so that just like breathing, you're not having to consciously think about doing these 4 steps. It just becomes a part of the way you operate. You don't have to try to like get into the zone. Just as soon as you sit down at your computer, like you're in the zone, and that's how you operate. So it's in a tap in, maintain, and then like automation phase.
Do you know someone that has fully integrated these steps becomes walking magic? Like,
I love that.
You know how magnetic somebody is that masters this and just lives right that set point, I'm sure you're there on your way, like that, your magnetism is ridiculously high. If you have like fully integrated and just, you know, neutrality is your set point, or you can just be a human, but you always come back to neutral, like your magnetism and your manifestation just has to be off the charts.
Exactly. Because it directly relates to it. 1000%.
Yeah. And the resistance you've worked through, like your clean energy, like you're just very clean energy, right? So things just want anything you desire, people, places, opportunities, they just want to be around you because your energy field is so clean.
You do notice that too. I love that you bring that up, because when your energy field is clean, things happen quicker because the vessel is not clogged.
Yes. I'm like, this is the pathway. If somebody really wants to just be completely magnetic, like this requires work. Absolutely. But it's just almost, it's a training. It's all it is. Like we can train ourselves to be in any way. So if you want this and you commit to it and practice, you can get to where this is second nature and you don't even think about it. Like it's so natural. Like I'm sure it's automated for you. I'm sure when you get triggered or get out of neutrality, these steps are like boom, boom, boom. Like you can get there pretty quick, I imagine, right?
Exactly. Except for when you're in the expanding phase,
Right.
then you just go back into, okay, this is how I tap in, this is how I now maintain it, and now this is how I automate it. So yeah, but it's the same process.
Yeah.
Always.
And then you up level and then you do it again and normalize it. And like, that's the staircase. I wanted to ask, manifestation, like, okay, so let's say you're launching your mastermind, or maybe even the first time that you launched it, because you've launched it before. Maybe that first time, do you have any manifestation practices, even maybe with coherence or neutrality, where you visualize, get into the energy of like, my mastermind sold out, it was a success? Like, do you have like active manifestation principles that you partner with this work?
So one thing that I do, I've actually never explained this to someone, so I'm glad you're asking, because I've always wanted to like make this into like a practice, because it essentially is, but it's like I visualize, like you already are Amity, I already am Elizabeth, like you already are you, for everyone listening and watching, like you already are this energy. It's already inside of you. It's just more so about awakening it and like shutting off the gunk that's keeping you apart from like your radiant, natural, badass energy that can easily and effortlessly bring in exactly what it is that they want. And so what I like to do in the morning, or if I'm ever feeling kind of off or like whatever, I'll imagine myself like Elizabeth, like the true Elizabeth, like the tapped in golden state of Elizabeth. And I will like bring her, like I'll breathe her in. So it's like I'm like breathing in the soul kind of.
Yeah, no, I do this. I keep going.
Okay, I was like, I'm sure other people do similar things. This is what I do. Yeah. And I like will breathe in the soul of me. And I'm usually like golden and sparkly is usually how I see myself. And I'll feel myself physically. And then it's like you start to embody like, yes, I'm Elizabeth. Like it's tapping into like, and for me, I just have, once I've breathed myself in, I'm like, I'm Elizabeth. And it's like, I kind of just keep saying my name. And it's like the energy of me kind of just like pulsates. And then I do a very quick visualization process of my day. So I just kind of like a very quick movie, like me going through being like this dominant, powerful energy of Elizabeth. And then I just kind of revert it back in a circle back to me in the present moment. It sounds kind of long, but it literally takes like 1 minute when I do it.
So that's like your daily practice?
Yeah, in the morning, like that's kind of like my meditation. I have ADHD. So when I meditate, I just do like mindful breathing practices, and then I will do like my intention meditation by like just breathing in me, because I know as long as I'm tapped into me, like I already know what it is I want. I may do other things like script. I have like kind of like a longer morning routine, but yeah, that is a huge part of what I do every morning.
That's incredible. I do that. That visual is really powerful for me. Like I have tons of practices, but one of the practices, I have reminders on my phone of things that I'm manifesting, but present tense, right? Or I'll congratulate myself. Like one of them is like, congratulations on da 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 da, you know? And I when it pings up, I breathe it in. and embody it. So like when you mentioned, because our senses, like it's so important, we don't just see, right? But we hear, like I hear the congratulations and I breathe in the energy of like, I did this and receiving it. And so like, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's the vibe. That's totally like, I take it in my whole body through my nostrils.
Yeah. And it's, it's interesting. It's like, we actually weren't taught this, but it's like we instinctively know to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's gotta be it.
Yeah. I
It
think it's
is
so, you
it.
talked about like the intuition, but I really liked about you, teaching on the neutrality piece. I really like that, because so many, it's like high vibe this, right? It's,
Mhm.
and it was like, that's just a different way to like see it and look at it. Like, this is the set point. And
Mhm.
we normalize the wealth or the sold out mastermind or the whatever, like it's just about the same way we brush our teeth. And then you're free to move along the spectrum once you've calibrated and normalized this into the body.
Yeah. And the word set point is really key too, because we could take like a really happy person
Yeah.
and compared to like someone who's miserable, and that happy person could change bodies with the miserable person. And while they're feeling normal, but because their set points are different, it's like, well, this is normal for their person. So they wouldn't feel like apparently like angry, but all along there really was like this chaotic energy. So when that person gets over here, that's not normal to me. That's chaotic energy. And then this person, that's kind of uncomfortable. I feel like I have anxiety. I'm like overly excited and I don't know why, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, it's set point. I really like that word even more than neutrality. So thank you for keep using that word, because that word's key.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I interpreted it in your teaching.
Yeah, it's
So
exactly it.
yeah. So that you, because that's the platform on which you can like move from, but you always come home to.
Yes.
So I'm going to go get the muse and I'm going to tell me, okay, we've got a couple minutes. This is for, so I get the muse, and is it just biofeedback, right? Am I just learning about me in different states and like what triggers those different states? And then how would I want to use that for creation and manifestation once I learn, how it feels to access those different frequencies or brainwaves?
Yeah, so there's many different like ways you can utilize this tool. The three dominant ways is number one, like noticing where your triggers are, because it'll tell you like you'll know obviously because you know what pisses you off, you know what upsets you, you
Do
know
you
what
wear it
frightens
like
you.
all day long and like take notes and stuff? Is like that how?
When I first got it, for weeks. I was like, I wonder if the radio waves, it's not good to like keep it on. And I had imprints. My boyfriend would just make fun of me. I don't wear it so much like that anymore, but I do, when I do wear it, I will wear it for hours because I'm
Okay.
running like little experiments on myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all
Yeah.
about self-experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
so let's say I'll keep it on, and then am I just noticing and monitoring my daily life and then what's happening on with my brainwaves?
So you can do that. But it would just depend on like what specific intention did you want right away? Because the other two reasons why, I mean, there's many reasons why you can use it, but say, for example, if I need to make sure I'm making the right decision and I'm having problems with this self-trust, like regulating what that feels in your body. And like, say maybe the muscle techniques and like the sway techniques are like, you're even messing those up because you're not tapped into your body. You're like, oh God, I'm getting mixed answers. So it's like, this is when using the neurofeedback is so potent, because you can ask yourself questions and you can see what it felt like. You'll feel in your body and then see on the chart, oh, that's what it feels like when I get an answer based off of like pure relaxation where my theta and alpha were higher. So my fight or flight wasn't kicked on. Or, oh, I know this is what it feels like when I am kind of stressed out and I'm doubting myself because clearly like my beta is high whenever I answered this. So it also helps with being able to like tell, like feel that, get that sense of feeling in your body. And then of course, just conditioning yourself, because if you are training you, like you can do this for so many different, like training yourself, but this is where I recommend like using hypnosis in the brainwave, because if you're doing something like a heart mind meditation, where first it's kind of just, people have many different heart mind meditations. So for, and I know you know this, Amity, but for anyone listening, not all heart mind meditations will be like this, just FYI. But say for example, in terms of the neurofeedback one, like the way I've scripted it is essentially start off, and you can just do this without a script, you're a hypnotist, and for anyone listening, you don't need a hypno script, you can kind of just follow these fundamentals of, while you have it on, you are just observing everything around you. No intention to like look specifically at a certain time, you're just observing. And then I usually keep my phone, because that's what I'll have it on. You could do, I think probably do on a computer, maybe. I'm not sure, it's an app. But I'll keep it up, laying up, so I don't have to like move my head at all. So I can always just like slightly move my eyeballs over and look. And then I'll see like, oh, certain things are getting me certain feedback, right?
Yeah.
And so I bring myself back to like just pure observe. I get in the practice of noticing even small things back to a state of neutrality. Like being able to just breathe through, even like when I start to get a little like anxious, like maybe I would look over at my lap. I'd get a lot of stress when I'd think about my work at first. I'd be in a state of observing. I'd look over at my laptop and my beta would shoot up real fast. I didn't even really feel it because my body was used to it. And I just looked over and went, oh shit, what am I freaking out about? It's my computer. So I had to get used to like breathing in to every time I saw that, because when you breathe full deep breaths, it lightens the fight or flight. So as long as you keep breathing into like whatever you're observing, it helps regulate, helps neutralize that. And then I'll move it up a notch. I'll move it up. I'll first start with things that feel then good, and then just bring my ability to neutralize those. And then I'll bring up the challenging things. And then that's when I'll start like either physically seeing it, or if it's not in front of me, I will bring it up in my mind or whatever, and I'll breathe through it. But I'll start first with just neutral stuff, that things that you think would be neutral, and then like what feels good, because it's not like you're changing your programming to it. It's changing your reactance to things. So when you do this, you don't have to worry about like changing your association. Like, oh my God, if I love something, I don't want to bring it down. You're not changing your association with this. You're training your nervous system how to better react to things, so that no matter what happens, you're just always able to stay level if you want to.
Yeah. That's something I desire. I'm like so excited. And this can escalate healing for people, especially people that like think like me. Like if you can like bring up, right? I bet you can do so much healing, like on the ethereal level, like you bring up a memory or trauma, right? And you watch that spike and you stay with it with your breath and you regulate through it, right? Almost like, like circle therapy or like, right? Like you can actually heal the energy that way using this neural feedback.
Yes.
Quickly,
1000%.
I mean, you can probably knock it out in like 15 minutes. Like if you just stay with it and move the energy, you could heal like lifetimes of work.
You really can. And it's all within just like letting the feeling be there, not judging it, breathing into it. And then it just neutralizes. There's like no reactance at all.
That sounds incredible.
Yes. And then side note, Amity.
Yeah.
Now this is something you do need a hypnotist for, everyone listening. Okay. If you add a habit loop to the end of this, then you can automate it. Then you don't need to mindfully get into a practice anytime. Like you can just automate the fact that this is how you operate. So
can you explain that a little more?
Yeah. So like from our habit control, like knowing like the 3 R's, applying that same, do you remember what I'm talking? So anytime we this is how our triggers work too. We have a reminder, which is AKA the trigger. Then we have our routine, which is normally how we would have reacted, because it gets us the reward of, even if we're reacting in a way that physically doesn't seem that great, there's always a positive intent to it. Maybe it allowed you to feel safe. Maybe it allowed you to feel like you're in control, even though you act like an ass, like whatever, right? And so it's about changing it's of course changing the reactant, and then giving yourself like just the reward of being relaxed to neutral because the feel good chemicals naturally come with that. But taking that same principle and then giving it back to them in hypnosis, that every single time, such and such happens, you're going to react this way, this, and then, doing the hypnosis thing so that it becomes automatic. And this is a huge part in the automation phase. I don't teach this because we also do a lot of other regulating and processing early on in the program. I don't teach this until the end because I don't say I don't teach it because I teach it, but we don't do the hypnosis till the end.
Okay.
Yes.
Elizabeth, thank you so much. This was like the perfect hour on a Friday afternoon.
Thank you for inviting me. It was such a privilege to be here, and I appreciate it so much, Amity.
I hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you. I hope you have a great weekend as well.
I'll see you later.
Bye.